to the cloud. And I see that we're recording. Welcome to the April 6th edition of our SIG CLI biweekly meeting. My name is Sean Sullivan. I am the host. We have quite a few announcements this go around. I'll get right into those, then we'll get into the topics, and maybe we'll have stand-ups if that's possible. So the first thing is for our upcoming sprints for the next 125 release, we're asked not to use Golang generics. So Golang has been increased. We've increased the version to 118, which has generics, but we've been asked to not use generics just yet until 124 is shipped. And on that note, the release cut has been delayed for 124 to next Monday from yesterday. And we've included some of the release dates and some of the ones that have passed just to put everything in context. We had our code freeze last week, and the open placeholder PRs for docs, that also has passed. Yesterday, docs PR should have been ready for review, and then today is the test freeze, and then the release notes should be complete by April 15th, next Friday. Okay, so in addition, this is specific to kube control. There are Klog specific flags which have been deprecated, and they were deprecated last release in version 123. So I'm just bringing this up. This particular message has been sent out to KDev. I wanted to bring it up in the SIG CLI. There is user-facing documentation at that link which will describe what these changes are in the Klog flags. And then finally, we've got an announcement that we have a contributor summit at KubeCon EU, which is coming up, exciting, in May, which is going to be in Valencia, Spain. And on Monday, before that KubeCon starts, there will be, which has recently been announced, a contributor summit. So if you're interested in attending that actually would be usually is very useful for all of us developers. So at that, I'm going to ask, does anyone else have any other announcements that they would like to make? Okay, yeah, there was quite a few announcements there. So let's move on to introductions. This is the part of our meeting where we get to meet the newer contributors, the newer folks who have joined. And if you're comfortable, if you'd like to, please go ahead and say your name and what you're interested in, and let us know. This is your opportunity to meet with the rest of your SIG CLI colleagues. Okay. Doesn't sound like there's any introductions this time. So why don't we move directly into the topics? So is Philip here?
Yeah.
Great. I'm gonna show this particular pull request. And this is for sharing the transport in kube control.
Okay, so this PR is okay. So this PR is fixing the bugs that we are having, which are causing multiple sockets being opened and exhaustion of these sockets. So we would like to share the transport for For example, when you are fetching multiple resources and share the same transport and HTTP client internally. And there are some issues with the implementation. One issue is that it's touching a lot of places. And the other one is that there is not a clear direction how to solve the usage of standard input. Because, yeah, the bug with the multiple sockets open happens only when you are using exec credentials provider. And this provider has an option to tell it that we are using standard input or not. And thus the provider can or cannot obtain the credentials if they are not available from the user when running. And since we are caching the HTTP transport, we have to know this in the beginning, how to pass this value to the provider. But the current implementation in most of the places is that we are getting this information about the standard input much later than once we have already created the clients. And yeah, so this is the current problem. Yeah, I implemented it that once we know that the standard input is in use, we are calling a callback on REST client getter, which goes back to the factory and the config flags, and then we will remove or destroy the cache for the HTTP client, and the new clients you will be getting will receive the updated version of the credentials provider, knowing that there is a standard input in use. But this is like this callback is not really nice, but it's an like the simplest solution, I think. Yeah. So, any opinions on this?
If I remember correctly from the review that I did last week or before, the most problematic bit in that particular PR was with one specific method about the STD in use. Was that correct?
Yes, this is the exact thing I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. I'll have a look at it. It's definitely something. The general shape of the PR is good. I'm definitely in favor of fixing those. Although I'm slightly worried about that. The one thing that I guess we'll have to figure out how to best approach in the long term.
I mean, in the cleanest case, we would first read anything we have on a command line and decide if we have standard input or not, and then create the clients. But this would, to implement this, we would need a very large scale refactoring of all the commands. And I'm not sure if this would also work with resource discovery. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, before we ship that one, we have to make a closer look into it. I think we have enough time before 125 to get a closure on that one. If anyone has any ideas, feel free to leave them in that PR. Both Philip and myself will be looking at it over the next few weeks.
Is this, I think Arda had a PR open to share something too, right? I don't think that ever got merged. I'll see if I can dig that one up.
he was changing something, but I can't remember if that was specifically for this. But yeah, if you find something, please ping me with the PR. I'm very curious about that one.
Great.
There
Well,
have been these PRs from Andrew Kiesler, but they were only targeting some just some parts of the problem. For example, this one which focuses on the describe. So this is like a generic approach in the shared transport in kubectl.
thanks, Philip, for sharing that PR with us. And as Maciej said, it sounds like since we're at the very beginning of 125, it sounds like we should have time to get that into the next release.
Yeah, thanks. Just glad to bring some attention to that.
Appreciate it. So Maciej, would you like to talk about passing the kube config as a basic 4 string?
Yeah, so I stumbled upon this enhancement earlier last week when I was going through so many of the PRs for 124 freeze. And I've noticed that there is, I think in the issue, there was a link over back to kubectl issue, which was apparently discussed some of the one of our previous bug scrub, which I think I might have missed. In short, the idea is to be able to pass base64 encoded kubeconfig as a flag to kubectl. I'm not sure if the person who opened that one, I put it last minute and I wanted to run that by all of you. But I put on hold there on this PR because I think that doing this just for this particular case will not solve the problem, because base64 encoding the string, the contents of the kubeconfig, doesn't solve the problem of, if I remember correctly, the original issue was about hiding or being able to encrypt the contents of the kubeconfig or something along those lines.
It looks like he wants to store the base64 representation of the config as a GitHub Actions secret for the repo.
Right. So I'm not 100% sure that exposing something like that makes sense. I would be supporting, and that's one of the reasons why I put a hold on this PR and left my comment there, is that instead of doing this that way, I was suggesting that kubeconfig encryption would be implemented instead, because that would be allowing us to have a more thorough approach if we want to secure kubeconfig per se, rather than just solving this particular case. If this is about base64 encoding for the GitHub Actions, why not decode it on the fly and write it to file, do whatever you want to do it, and then just remove it.
I was actually going to ask that. Like, it would make more sense to write it to a file system rather than putting it in an actual command line, only because like you have bash history and all that other stuff that you can expose in a secret, essentially. Even though it's base64 totally. So it's
Right.
better
I mean,
to write to a file.
right. I mean, base64 is nothing of a close to be secured. So I was a little bit confused with this approach and why we would want to do something like that. I'm open to, I don't know, having a discussion about what do we want to achieve with this. Let me try to find the actual issue. I think the enhancement issue links 3 issues from the kubectl repo. and the first one was taught, all three were talking about either environment variable or passing base64 string directly as a kubeconfig. And at least for GitLab, somebody pointed to, in this particular comment, that there is a solution that you can inject that through a variable. In GitLab, it is called variable as a file or something like that. So I'm very hesitant to add anything along those lines for kubectl. I'm surprised because I'm not seeing anything like that where I would comment about this. But yeah, I was thinking that I did comment somewhere that I'm not.
We've addressed this many times, and every time we say the same thing, it's that when you can do something easily with Bash, we don't want to add maintainer burden for it in kubectl.
Exactly.
Yeah, he even in the issue, in the enhancements issue, or no, where is it? In the kept that he opens, he even explains how he does it now using Bash. That is very simple.
Right. So I'm not in favor of doing it, and unless someone objects, I'm inclined to close both the issue and the cap, pointing that this is something this simple that we just don't want to allow it explicitly in the in kubectl.
I mean, you can specify a kubeconfig file for kubectl use, right?
Say that again, Russ? I didn't.
Oh, so like you can point kubectl to a specific kubeconfig file, right?
Oh yeah,
There's multiple ways to do that.
of course.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe it's just worth saying that. Like, just write it to a file, set this option, do it this way, call it a day. don't try to overcomplicate this because, like I said, just from pure security perspective, I don't like it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't even think you need to say that because he outlines how he does it right now, that's exactly how he does it. Is he stores it as a secret in his GitHub action, echoes the base64, pipes it through base64 to decode into the kubeconfig file. Like, I don't see any, like, that seems like the way to do it to me.
Okay. I'm hearing that the majority agrees with me. So I'll just, oh, thanks, Brian, for the point about GitHub Actions for kubectl. I'm gonna use that and the rest when I'll be closing. I'll make sure to close the issue, and I'll point him to today's notes, and we'll notify that we're not interested in doing this.
And
I have a question.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to step on somebody there. I had a question. I was wondering if it would be worth, or if it already does this, can you pipe the output of a file directly into kubectl so you don't have to write it to a file first?
You can, and we've shown people that you can do this with the named pipe file descriptor redirect. The problem that people have is you have to put it on every single line and wrap your lines, which seems fine to me. But yeah, you absolutely can do that. And I think what we need to do is we need to make clear too that we're not just saying no to say no. Like, this change is it's a big one-way door that we have to get right if we're going to do it the first time. And it's going to affect more tools in the ecosystem than just kubectl. And I think that's the big piece here.
Correct. Also, you don't have to, Eddie, to rephrase a little bit what you just said, you don't have to pass it every single time, because you can still use the kubeconfig environment variable, do it once at the beginning of the script, and then just do whatever actions you want to do with the kubectl, with a kubeconfig exported at the beginning of all the calls.
If you do the named pipe, it's only a one-time read. So if you're not writing
okay.
it to disk, you can't do that.
Okay, I wasn't aware about that one.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I think Amit's the one who brought that up last time.
Okay, I wasn't, honestly, I wasn't even aware about something like named pipes. I need to read something about that. Seems interesting still.
So have I captured the sentiment? I said the SIG CLI is against this approach.
I'll put a little bit more thorough description on why we're against. But yeah, anyone can always check the recording about the reasons and all that. But yeah, that makes sense. I'll probably copy paste the entire answer in both places just for cross-reference.
Right.
We've said a few times too, though, that we are going to have to think about a CI/CD narrative and solution for people, right? Because this is going to keep coming up. So it's something that we should think about approaching at some point.
Yeah, definitely. But for that, I would prefer to have a broader overview of the CI/CD solutions that are currently existing, and that is not only GitHub or GitLab, that also includes Argo, Flux, I don't know, Jenkins, whatever else, and how people are using their kubectl, what we could do to improve it. But it would probably reaching out to folks on KDev or KUsers and gathering the feedback first, and only then coming up with some consistent solution that will work across the board. Because yeah, I'm not interested in something that will be working just for one set of people, but not for the other, because we will end up in a wrong spot. So I want to make sure that we don't end up in such a situation.
Yeah, if you can, Maciej, pitch it to the author of this kept that way then, because if they are passionate about this, then they might be the one to drive it forward.
Yeah, will do.
Cool. Thanks for bringing this up, Maciej. So does anybody else have any other topic that we should address in our meeting? Okay, well, let's attempt to see if there's any stand-ups. So I know that there's a couple of customizers here. Would anybody, Natasha or Katrina, like to mention anything about customize? And sorry to put you on the spot. So if not, no problem.
Sure. Yeah, I can say something. Regarding the kubectl release, we were able to get the latest version of Customize in it, and we also merged the change so that kubectl version shows you the customized version. So that's also going to be clear in the next release of kubectl. And as part of that bump, the long requested change to handle YAML anchors properly at aliases, that made it into that customized version. So we're excited about that. Besides that, I've been doing a bunch of more toil work on the customized repo after discovering that we're running tests redundantly. We're not running tests at all for some of the modules. Customize has 44 modules in it. If you didn't know, that's pretty crazy. A lot of them are just utility stuff, but they still have tests. So test linter, the copyright header, all that kind of stuff, just making sure it was working properly, which by and large it wasn't. So been doing a lot of work there, and to upgrade to Go 118, upgrade our releaser pipeline, just a lot of maintenance stuff. And Natasha is working on some performance improvements around OpenAPI that should help with the performance of Customize overall, because that's where we're spending a lot of time.
Please let me know if I've accurately captured that update.
Sounds good. And Natasha, if you have anything to add, feel free.
That looks good. I think one thing I would add is Anna is a new member working on Customize. She's going to work on Customize Localize command, which will pull down remote resources into your current directory.
Right, we're excited about that feature and welcome Anna.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that extemporaneous update. Again, sorry to put you on the spot there. Is there anyone else who would like to give an update on the area that they are working on? If not, we're going to have some time back here today. Okay, great. So
Hey, Sean, sorry, I had one quick thing. Marcus reminded me of this the other day. We have this umbrella issue open to refactor commands to kind of follow the convention of splitting flags and options and making it not dependent on Cobra. I think we have a bunch of POC PRs that people have opened, and Marcus was gonna open one too for config. So if anyone else wants to take a look at this, we just need to make a decision if this is the route we want to move forward with in terms of, does this feel good as a command developer? And is this something you'd want to pull in if you're using this in a, external client or something? So I'd like to get this wrapped up.
Eddie, can you open a thread on Slack and ping the interested folks with the PRs? And let's try to figure out within, I don't know, the next week or two, let's say. It might be close to the holiday season now-ish, well, next week. So let's give ourselves about 2 weeks to get it sorted out. And then, yeah, I'm definitely in favor of doing that.
Cool. Okay, I'll do that.
I think we have 2 example states to look at. Like weight was listed in the original posting of the issue, and then it looks like we got a PR merged for apply.
I think apply is the example that we're going to base it off of. Oh no, you said weight was the perfect example. I see.
Yeah, weight was the first one because we created weight after certain changes, and then weight was being used as an example of a command, which was already embedded in delete, if I remember correctly, possibly also somewhere else. So it was both a command and already as something that we embed in somewhere else. So that was the reason why weight was created the way it was created. So yeah. Also, we should probably figure out a path for promoting weight to GA eventually, because if I remember correctly, it's still is beta-ish state.
Great, thanks, Eddie. Eddie, if you get the chance, maybe we could, is there a link to one of the PRs we could add to the notes eventually?
Yeah, I'll drop it in there.
Cheers, thank you. Okay, it looks like we're gonna get about half of our time back. Appreciate you joining us this week, this bi-weekly meeting, and we will see you within 2 weeks. Anything by anybody else before we close? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Good to see you guys. You all.
Thanks all. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.